my message coming from a small town, right, has always been this: because we hesitate to dream big, right? And like your first question said, that in our society, the kind of environment we grow up in, we're not encouraged to dream big. So, what I would say is, in front of the million people, what I would say is, as humanity, we've come this far, and from my personal experience, we've always dared to dream big as humanity as well, because as a person, I have dreamed big as well, and I've worked hard, and I've been persistent, and I have kept a positive attitude and a focus to get this far. And I believe, as humanity, we can go beyond our solar system and explore this universe. There is so much more out there. We treasure our planet, we value our planet, we take good care of it, but let's go. Let's stop fighting all these wars that we are fighting. Let's stop looking at the boundaries between our countries, and let's go beyond that. Let's get a perspective of our planet from up there, and let's make humanity a space-faring species. Because I believe right now all our resources, all our financial resources are diverted into things like weapons and wars, right? If we divert them from that to the betterment of humanity here on Earth and then in space, we will become a much better species. We will be really an intelligent species then. So yes, let's do that. Let's come together to make this planet a better place, and to take humanity beyond this planet and make it a species.
This is episode number 10 of Keep Me Inspired podcast show with Anima Patel Sabale.
Welcome guys to Keep Me Inspired. My name is Shivatma Chennai and I am your host for this show. Every 15 days I will be interviewing today's most inspiring and successful personalities who will range from CEOs, YouTubers, authors and other change makers in order to help you to make early life-changing decisions and realize your true worth. Welcome Anima to Keep Me Inspired podcast show. I am really excited to have this conversation with you.
Thank you so much, Shiva, for inviting me. It's a pleasure to talk to you. Thanks.
For the audience who are listening, I just want to give a brief introduction about you. So do correct me if I am
Mm-hmm.
wrong, ma'am.
Yeah.
Anima Patel Sabale is an Indian-born software and aerospace engineer. She is currently working as Orion spacecraft stimulations lab manager at NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston. She is a scientist astronaut candidate for commercial spaceflight research projects during her off hours. As I was listening to your TEDx speech, Shooting for the Stars, I really got inspired by by the belief you had. What is impossible today that will become a possibility tomorrow? Oh, ma'am, like I just remembered my childhood as
Mm-hmm.
well. Like we all wanted to be an astronaut, a pilot, a president. But as we grow, our society's influence, peer pressure makes us to be practical and stop thinking big.
Yeah,
So I wanted to
that's
know,
true.
ma'am, what kept you moving in this lonely path? Can you just give us a brief about your childhood as well?
I'm sure, Shiva. So yeah, it's a very good question, and I have lived that experience, right? So I can definitely share and give you an idea of how I've come this far, despite all the odds that have been in my path. So yeah, I grew up in a small town of Jalgaon in Maharashtra. I studied at a convent school in Jalgaon, St. Joseph's Convent High School. Since childhood, since I was very little, as far as I remember, I remember being fond of looking at the skies in the night, the stars. In those days, we could see the arm of the galaxy. We would sleep on the terrace in summers. I don't know if you guys do that even now. But yeah, when I was a little girl, we would sleep on the terrace during the summers, and you could see the stars. They were really shining bright. The light pollution wasn't as bad as it is today. And we could see even the arm of the galaxy. So I was always fascinated by the stars, and I would wonder, can I go up there? What would be out there? So that curiosity was always there, that interest was always there. And then when I was about 7 years of age, we had a school book exhibition at our school. And in that book exhibition, I saw pictures of astronauts laying on their backs and traveling to space. So that gave me an idea that, oh, these people get to travel to the stars. And so I want to become one of them. I want to become like them. Now, this was at the age of 7. I didn't know how to go about doing that. Plus, at that time, we didn't have social media. We didn't
Mhm.
have the internet, right? So, not many resources out there. Books were my only resources, newspapers, books. And I was a very avid reader. I loved reading. So, I would read a lot, and I would try to figure out how can I become an astronaut. And that's how I found out about astronaut Rakesh Sharma ji. He was a fighter pilot in the Indian Air Force. That's how
Mhm.
he got to fly through the Russian space program. Plus, we had the Soviet Russia magazine at that time. The ties between India and Russia were really good at that time, and um, they were helping us in our program. And that's how Rakesh Sharma ji got launched through the Russian space program. So I would read those magazines at school. My dad had them ordered at home. So reading through those about the Russian space program, that was how I got to know about what is going on in the space program. So yeah, I decided to become a fighter pilot like Rakesh Sharma ji. But that time Indian Air Force wasn't accepting women as fighter pilots, right? They just recently
Mhm.
started accepting women as fighter pilots. But I decided that by the time I graduate, they might start accepting women as fighter pilots. So I decided to do a bachelor's in physics after my high school, because my dad's condition was, whatever you want to study, you have to study it in Jalgaon. I'm not going to be able to send you outside Jalgaon. So that was one criteria. So engineering was out of the question when I bought the Indian Air Force fighter pilot application. The first criteria,
Mhm.
educational qualifications required was you need to have a bachelor's in physics or a bachelor's in engineering. So I decided to do a bachelor's in physics, which was available locally at our university. And I really loved physics. So I ended up doing my final project report on astronomy, astrophysics, which was interesting. So you can see I was always orienting towards anything related to space, no matter what I was doing. And when I was doing my bachelor's, I thought to myself, I want to make myself physically really strong, right? Because if I want to become a fighter pilot, you need to be physically fit. So I would run for miles. I was a part of the NCC, the National Cadet Corps. I would run every morning at 5 o'clock for miles, and then that's how I was making myself stronger. Then I would teach in my dad's coaching classes because he saw I had interest in that. So he asked me if I want to do it, and I said, yeah, sure. So I would teach English, science, math to younger kids, fifth to eighth grade kids, and it was really fun. So you see, even when I was doing my bachelor's, I was really busy all day, going for a run at 5 o'clock, then coming back, freshening up, taking those batches, teaching students, then going to college, participating in my NCC activities, cultural activities as well, and then going for camps as well as a part of NCC. So that's how I was preparing myself, trying to do everything I could. I was into debates and singing competitions and all that kind of cultural stuff as well. So when I got the Air Force application after the bachelor's was done, I saw the first criteria again. You have to be a male. So I decided to ignore that criteria. I thought, let me just go ahead and apply. At the most, what will happen? They will reject me. But if they like me, maybe they'll consider me. So I decided to ignore that criteria. But the second criteria was you need to have a perfect 2020 vision. and I had a slight
Mhm.
myopia. I was slightly short sighted at that time. So that criteria I couldn't ignore. And that was like the end of my dreams, the end of everything for me. So yeah, I didn't know what to do after that because I couldn't apply. And then I was kind of lost, and I didn't want to do a master's in physics. Then my dad suggested about a new program called the Masters in Computer Applications, that had started at our university, the North Maharashtra University. At that time, they were very
Mhm.
selective. They had only 30 seats in the program. So I gave the entrance exam, I got into the program, and I did my master's in computer applications, got married while I was studying, came to Mumbai, worked for a couple of years, got an H1B visa through a company who hired me, and they sent me with my husband. Both of us came on H1B visas to the US. So you see, all along this path, I was I was heading in one direction, and then I ended up becoming a software engineer and coming to the US. So there have been a lot of hurdles. To summarize what I'm saying is, there have been a lot of hurdles. Yes, I was like mocked when I was little. I was say I want to become a fighter pilot. I want to become an astronaut. I was made fun of because at that time it was something really strange. Why? How and why? It was something that was impossible, right? So people would make fun of it. So I learned to stay quiet about it and not share about it as much as I would, but I silently kept working towards my goals. No matter what the hurdles, I kept working towards it. My mom and dad never discouraged me. So parents play a very big part. They never discouraged me, but my dad told me the reality that becoming an Air Force pilot is not an easy thing. You will have to be ready for disappointments, because there are really small criteria sometimes that can disqualify you. He had had an experience when he had applied to the Navy. He almost made it, but because of a small health criteria he was disqualified. So he prepared me that way, but he never said, oh no, you can't do this or do that. Instead, he always let me explore and encourage. Yes, there were restrictions where he said, when I was accepted to the master's program, it's a 3-year program. There are already marriage proposals coming for you, so I cannot guarantee that you will be able to finish your masters. If we like someone for you, then we might get you married, and then you might not be able to complete your education. But my mom stood by me. She said to my dad, no, she's smart, let her study. If we find someone and we like him for her, then we can request to his family to let her study even after marriage. So that's how it worked out. But yeah, when I was accepted to the master's program, my cousins asked my mom questions like, why do you want her to study so much? Why such a higher education for a girl? At the end of the day, she has to just stay home, get married, and raise kids, right? So those kind of things hurt me a lot internally, but I couldn't do much about it, right? Other than being silent and continuing to do what I was doing, there was nothing much I could do to stop people. So these kind of things happen around us. Ours is a very conservative society. Even after I came to the US and I was settling down as a software engineer, settling down in this new country, in a new job, I then had my first son as well. He was 3 years. I was watching the space shuttles launch regularly. I knew there was a NASA center near my home. And that's when that dream that had kind of fallen behind or gone dormant, it started awakening up again. And then I thought, you know what, even though I'm 30, and I have a kid and I have a full time job, this is my chance. Do I want to keep wondering all my life, what if I had done something? Or do I want to just do it, no, with no guarantees of success? Just do it, go for it, and enjoy the journey and see what happens, right? So that's what I decided to do. And I applied to a master's in aerospace engineering, my second master's, because I thought I need to have that aerospace engineering background. And I really loved learning about airplanes and rockets and spacecrafts. So I applied with resistance from parents and husband, because they wouldn't understand why I wanted to do that at that age, when I had a child, when I had a nice house, when I had a nice job. Why go for that now? They thought I won't be able to do justice to my family. So they were resistant in the beginning. They gave me a hard time, but I told them, I will not compromise on my duties for you guys, for my family. you guys will come first, my dreams will come last. And I showed them all of that through my actions. I stretched myself, I worked really hard. I kept them as a top priority, and I would study late nights on the weekends for my masters. So that's how I got to finish my masters in aerospace engineering, and eventually they came around to support me. So basically, you have to win your family's support. You have to convince them that you can do it, and you have to do that through your actions. And then they will be with you, because that support system is really important. And that's what I tell the younger generation. So don't be selfish. Don't just think about themselves. They are right. Try to understand their perspective and try to convince them. They love you. At the end of the day, they will come around. I talked a lot. Now your turn.
No, ma'am, you just covered most of my questions.
Okay.
So, ma'am, in the TEDx talk, you also mentioned that that how you met your husband is one of the topic you wanted to speak. If it is not that personal, can you share that story?
Oh, sure. Yeah. It's yeah, because there's so much in it, so I didn't want to spend time on the short TEDx talk. Actually, so I was when I applied to the MCN, I got accepted. So I had started my first year of masters, and my husband was 1 year senior to me, and he was senior, and they do the ragging and the or what do they
Hmm.
call it now? So that happened, and he liked me. I was a very simple, so that's what he tells me. You were simple, you were beautiful, and so he really liked me. And so he was after me. I didn't know much about this until he kept the freshers party on my birthday, and that's when my one of my classmates, who was from the same place he was from Nasik, the Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. They have a township there, HAL township. So he was from there. So this friend of mine, classmate, she told me, do you know he is after you, and he's telling people to stay away from you. He's the one, um, who is after you, so all guys should stay away and all that stuff. So I got really upset, because my dad, he was very renowned in Jalgaon because of his coaching classes. And you know how it is in India, right? So
Yes,
I
ma'am.
had a distant cousin, a relative, studying for the masters. He was in my husband's class. She was in my husband's class as well. So I got worried. And then after the freshers party, after all the things that went on during that freshers party, I told him that, can you please stop all this? If you're really serious, you should come and meet my parents. But stop all this. You're ruining my dad's reputation, my reputation. So I don't like this at all. But he was very naughty. He was one of the toppers. Um, uh, he was a very different personality than he is today. Very outgoing and all that stuff. So he asks me, "Okay, I will come and meet your parents, but I need to know from you. Do you like me?" And I said, I laughed at that question, and I said, I don't know. And then he said, no, in our computer world, there is only one answer. Either
Zero
you
or
say
one.
yes or no, or zero or one. So that was really funny. And I think he won me at that. And I said, okay, yes, but you should stop all this. And then he said, okay. And then I thought that will discourage him when I told him to come meet my dad. But he really came. He was serious. He came to meet my dad, and my dad said, what is this? If you're really if you really want to get married, you should go get your parents with you. And then so this all happened in August, September, and then he brought his parents in December. In January we were engaged, and in May we were married. So that's how fast all of that happened, because my dad didn't want us to stay engaged. And but we decided we want to study, continue our studies separately. We didn't want to mess up our um, careers, educational careers, as well as future careers, work careers. So I continued, even after marriage, I continued to live with my parents for 2 years to finish the masters. He was living in Jalgaon at his Mamaji's place, so he continued staying there. We would meet during vacations, holidays, and at college, of course, just casually. But yeah, our real married life started after he was done with his masters. He was looking for a job, and I was done looking for my industrial training. In MCA, we have 6 months of industrial training. So we came to Mumbai. We stayed 10 days at his Maushi means auntie's place in Dombivli, and I stayed, and then we stayed 5 days at my auntie's place in Thane. So, and we would pick up the
Hmm.
Ascent newspaper, the supplement that comes with Times of India, and we would go looking for jobs, interviewing wherever we could. All 10 days we were struggling looking for jobs, and nothing was working out. On the 10th day, we found out about a small company, Micro Technologies, which was in Vashi. And Vashi is vast. At that time, we were totally new to Mumbai. So, but we reached that place somehow in the afternoon, and it was run by a couple, Dr. and Mrs. Shekhar, and they really liked us both. And that's how we started our careers. I was hired for industrial training, my husband was hired for a job, and that's where we started. So that's how interesting it was. And then in Mumbai, finding a place to live is challenge, right? In all these metropolitan cities.
Hmm.
My Fortunately, my uncle was food and drugs administration president at that time, and he had a lot of friend circle. So he said one of my friends apartments in Dombivli is vacant, and he's not been using it, so you guys can use it. Just pay for the maintenance, which was not a big amount. It was a small amount that we had to pay once every 3 months. So we were so lucky and blessed that we got that opportunity to find an apartment so quickly, which was right next to the railway station, which was an important factor as well. And it was in a nice locality where we would have to pay thousands of not dollars, rupees in rent. We saved that, and we just had a blast in those couple of years in Mumbai, starting our careers, exploring Mumbai. On the weekends, we would go to Nasik at my in law's place. So those 2 years went by really fast. And yeah, but parents, like always, they were very worried. You guys are still studying, you better not have kids now. And then after a couple of years of our marriage, they were like, when are you guys having kids? So that's how our society is, and that's how our parents and everyone starts pressuring us, right? But we had gotten married quite young. I was just 21 and Dinesh was 22, so we didn't want to rush into
Oh,
anything. So when we came to the US after 7 years of our marriage is when I had my son. So take your time. That's what I would like to say to you guys. Yes, even if you get married early, even if you rush into a marriage because you love someone, don't rush into having kids, because enjoy your time together as long as you can, and then plan it out and have kids on the right time. Settle down first and know what is the right time for you. So yeah, that's how it's been.
ma'am, for someone who is trying to figure out how to become an astronaut in 2021, can
Mm-hmm.
you give us some guidance on that?
Sure. So, see, I can talk about the NASA astronaut program because I'm familiar more with the NASA astronaut program. India's astronaut program is in its nascent stages, right? So,
Hmm.
India is not going to start hiring civilians to become astronauts right away. We are civilians. And then there are military folks like Air Force, Navy. So, right now, India has hired test pilots, right? Air Force test pilots, just like NASA in the Mercury 7 days, in the initial stages when NASA had started the space program, all the astronauts who were hired were test pilots, right? So, similarly, because test pilots have that skill and that patience to fly a new spacecraft, to test out a new spacecraft, civilians will not be able to do that. And that is how India has hired test pilots. But at NASA, after those initial years, once we've landed a man on the moon, until then there was no woman also in the astronaut program. After that, NASA's astronaut program started opening up, and they started hiring women, and we started having civilians, non military background folks. So today in NASA's astronaut program, yes, there is 50 to 60% in the astronaut corps. We have military, Air Force, Navy test pilots, and the rest 40%, sometimes it's 50%, of the class are people like me, civilians. So the
Hmm.
criteria is NASA has changed the educational qualification requirement. Until last time, it was bachelor's degree minimum. Now they've changed it to master's. No, not this March. Sorry, 2020 March is when NASA had opened up the applications for a month. I've applied in that slot as well. So yeah, the first criteria is you need to have a minimum of a master's degree, and then you need to be
Hmm.
physically fit. You have to be able to go through the clear the Air Force Type 3 medical exam. And then, yeah, these are the written criteria. You have to be a US citizen to be a NASA astronaut. Every country, they have their space program. It's a sensitive area, and so you need to be a citizen of that country to participate in that space program. So, yeah, the first criteria here is you need to be a US citizen, then you need to have a master's degree minimum, you need to have a certain amount of years of experience, and then you need to be able to clear the Air Force Type 3 physical. And then there are some other criteria. If you go to astronaut.nasa.gov, you will find all the information there. But basically, what I'm saying is these are all written criteria. There are some unwritten criteria that we, as a group of astronaut hopefuls, learn over a period of time. For example, the more skills you have, the better your chances. So you,
Hmm.
if you are a pilot, even if you are a private pilot, that helps your case. If you are a scuba diver, that helps your case. So I'm a student pilot, almost there to getting my private pilot's license. I am a scuba certified scuba diver. And the more educational qualifications you have, the better. Almost all of NASA's civilian astronauts, they have PhDs, and they are experts in their fields. So that is a criteria as well. So these are unwritten things. The more skills you have, basically, the better your chances. So do that. Pick an area that you really are passionate about: engineering, science, technology, and math, STEM. One of the STEM areas, pick one of those that you're really passionate about, and get your degrees in that, get your higher education in that, and then try to build your expertise while you're working in that area. But yes, like I say, pick up an area that you are really passionate with, that you see yourself going to work in every single day, right? You should be excited to go to work. It shouldn't be like, oh no, I have to do this is my job. No, it shouldn't be like that. It should be fun, it should be exciting to you, and then that's what will keep you happy. That will be your backup. That will be your main career, actually. But in addition to that, on the side, you will keep following your astronaut track as well. So that's what I have been doing. I am today managing the Orion spacecraft simulations lab at NASA's Johnson Space Center here in Houston. This has been my backup plan. It's, of course, my main career today, but I call it my backup plan. If I don't become an astronaut, I will continue working in the human spaceflight program. So working in this role is really exciting as well. I really love being in this role while I'm pursuing my astronaut path. This is what is helping me pay my bills as well, right? So whatever you do
Hmm.
to pay your bills, that has to be exciting, and that's what I'm doing. And while I'm doing this, I'm doing a lot of other things. So balancing all those things is important. Like I continue to, like I said, I'm finishing up my pilot training, and then I'm a Boy Scouts assistant scoutmaster for my boys since the last 10 years. So I also participate in a lot of cultural activities. I choreograph and perform dances in our Indian celebrations, Diwali, or August 15th. So yeah, you should have some hobbies. You should have some things that you really love to do apart from your work. NASA even looks at that. Professional life, they look at your professional life, and then they look at your personal life. What are you doing in your personal life? So I'm sure everyone has some hobby. Pick it up and enjoy that, and become an expert in that as well, and you will make your case stronger.
Ma'am, like you are a multi-talented person, can you just tell me some of your greatest achievement and the lessons that achievement has taught you?
Greatest achievement, I would say only when I become an astronaut, that will be my greatest achievement. Until then, I am doing everything that I love, that I'm passionate about. See, from having been a software engineer, I've come this far, right? Today, I'm managing the Orion Spacecraft Simulations Lab. I have finished my third master's degree, Master's in Space Studies, Human Factors.
Oh.
December 2019 is when I finished that. Now I wanted to pursue a PhD as well, but I have to figure out, do I have the bandwidth right now, or do I want to focus on other things? Education does take up, studying for a degree does take up a lot of time, right? And I got 3 masters, so I think I decided I want to be content with that. So yeah, I have done that. I would say, as a mom, as a woman, this might not be very big, but for me, the greatest achievement has been to be able to balance my work, my studies, and raise 2 boys. Today, my older one is 18, my younger one is 13. So that would be my greatest achievement, right? No matter what, when a woman can do that, when she can balance all her life and her raise 2 wonderful kids as well, that is one of the biggest achievements. But yeah, I'm trying to think. I have been a commander for 2 analog missions. One is NASA's Hera, Human Exploration and Research Analog, and the other is Mars Analog at the Mars Desert Research Station. That's so I've been doing all these things. One of those things is I've been a commander for those two. Then I'm a scientist astronaut candidate for a commercial spaceflight research project called Project Possum. As a part of that, after the training of 1 week, I have flown several research missions aboard a Falcon 20 aircraft. I was dressed in a spacesuit, and those were microgravity flights where we experienced zero gravity every time we flew a parabola, and to test the performance of that suit. So that's something I've loved. So these wouldn't call them achievements. They are milestones in my journey that I've really enjoyed, and I've challenged myself when I've done be it the zero gravity training or the high gravity training. I've spun in a NASTAR centrifuge, and I've pulled up to 6 Gs, 6 times the gravitational force, while spinning in that centrifuge. And that was a part of a study that the Federal Aviation Administration, the largest organization in the US that manages the American airspace, they were doing a study that with space tourism going to become a reality soon, should we be training civilians or tourists to in the experience of high gravity? What happens to us when we pull high gravities? Because when you launch into space, every spacecraft that you're going to launch in, you're going to experience G forces, and not everyone's body will handle the G forces very well. Some people might get violent when they're in a spacecraft if the G forces come on all of a sudden, because your body goes
Mhm.
through so much when you're experiencing G forces. Your cheek, they'll get pulled, your cheeks will get pulled, your muscles, your bones, everything will feel as if something is happening to it throughout your body. So how will everyone's body handle that? And should we train people to experience those G forces? That was the study. And so I pulled 6 Gs, and then my conclusion, my inputs to them were, yes, we do need to train people, because we don't want to send people up without any training, because they might get shocked, they might become violent, and the mission might or their trip might fail. So it's better to train them to experience the G forces, so they know what to expect when they're on a flight, right? So that was one of the things I did, and I enjoyed that experience as well. On my birthdays, I have skydived a couple of times. I thought, instead of getting gifts for myself, I would rather spend that money on skydiving. So I challenged myself. 13,000 and 15,000 feet, I've skydived from there. So these are all the milestones of my journey that I've really enjoyed. Yeah, no great achievement as
And there's
such.
so much more.
Yes, and there is so much more. The great achievement that you're asking about is yet to come.
Yeah, I'll be waiting for that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Ma'am, what is your one message to those people who tell that it's too late to start now? What is the right time to start, or is it ever too late to start?
It is never too late to start, and I am a living example of that, right? I have switched my careers. I was a software engineer for about 14 years working in the software
Mm.
industry. From there, I switched completely and I came to NASA. Even at NASA, after my aerospace engineering, because of this strong software engineering background, I've always ended up being in roles related to software. And right now, it's slightly different. I'm doing software as well as aerospace kind of. It's a balance, simulations. So Orion is the spacecraft we are sending our astronauts to the moon in, right? So I'm working on that Orion spacecraft, setting up its simulation and helping our NASA user community test out all the possibilities during flight. But yeah, it is never too late. I've switched and I'm working at NASA today from the software engineering world after 14 years in there. Now I started at NASA in 2012 when I worked on the Kepler mission first. So it's been almost 8 or 9 years, right? So at that time I was unsure, and even now I'm not sure if I'm going to make it into the astronaut program. There are 12,000 people who have applied this year, and almost everyone is really highly, extremely qualified. Just like I am qualified, there might be people who are
Mhm.
even more qualified than me. So out of 12,000, NASA is going to select hardly about 10 or 12 or 14 at the most, right? So you can see every person's chance is like 0.001%. So there is no guarantee I'll make it, but still I'm hopeful. Still I'm pursuing this path. I want to just have the satisfaction in my last moments that I tried. I gave it my everything, and I want to enjoy this journey. And that is why I share my story with the younger generation, because I missed out on the guidance, and so I want to give that guidance to the younger generation so they can find inspiration in my story. But yeah, it is never too late. Today I am 46 and I'm still hopeful of making it, of becoming an astronaut. I give myself another 4 years. I'm still going to continue building skills. I'm still going to finish my private pilot's license. Then I'm going to start building hours by flying very often. I'm going to continue to be a Boy Scouts assistant scoutmaster, go on Boy Scouts camps with my son. So I'm going to continue doing a lot of these things, and that's why it's never too late. That's what I say. It's up to you. How you should never set limitations on yourself. You can do much more than we think. We can do much more than we think we are capable of. And that's why I say it's never too late. If I could do it, you can definitely do it. If you're thinking, I had a dream and I let go of it because I got too focused on my career, on my daily life, routine, family, it's okay. You can still switch over. You can still switch gears and pursue your passion, pursue your dreams while you are balancing family life, work life, right? So, yeah, go for it. Don't think too much. If we keep thinking too much, the right time never comes. So just make a decision, get your family on the same page as you, and just go for it. It's never too late.
Ma'am, in this male dominating society, you being a female achieved so much. So you are already an inspiration to lot of women who are listening to this podcast. But can you uh, give some women some inspiration about gender does not matter, and being a women, it is equally possible as men to achieve anything they want.
Yeah, I think eventually this discrimination, this distinction between a male and female is going to disappear one day, and I can't wait for that day. Hopefully, it will happen in my lifetime. But yes, doesn't matter whether you are a woman. It's you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in your capabilities. The world will tell you no, it's not possible. Like I told you guys, right? When I was
Hmm.
little, when I said I wanted to become an astronaut, I didn't even know at that time what it takes to become an astronaut. I was made fun of. So people around will do that because, and I don't blame them because that's the kind of environment we've had. That's the kind of environment even they have grown up in. But you have to believe in yourself, and you have to continue working on your goal no matter what anyone tells you, right? You have to fight for yourself. You have to stand up for yourself. Fight for yourself meaning not go against everyone or be mean or be rude. You have
Hmm.
to take them along with you lovingly, but you have to show it through your actions. My dad always had this proverb in his classes: be silent and act. This was one of the proverbs that was on the walls in his classrooms. So that stuck with me. And he would always tell me, you should be silent and continue doing your work. And that's what stuck with me. And that's what I did. So when my parents were questioned, why are you educating your girls in convent school? Why not send them just to an Marathi medium school? They're just girls. They have to get married and raise kids, and that happened when I was doing my masters also. So it hurt me at that time, but I through my actions I've silenced everyone today, right? And that's what you need to
Hmm.
do.
Yeah.
Did I give up when people said such things? Did I? Yes, I would feel hurt. I have cried at times. That's my way. I went it out, then it's out of my system, and I'm back to being myself, back to my focus, back to my concentration. So you should always stay focused on your goals, no matter what everyone say. They will question you. They will raise fingers at you. But if you believe in yourself, no one can stop you from doing what you want. Doesn't matter if you're a girl. Doesn't matter if you're a boy. Okay, so do that. Believe in yourself, chase your dreams, and do your part. Let people say whatever they want. Don't give up on yourself ever, and be persistent. That is what matters. Look at me, I have had a lot of hurdles in my journey, but I haven't given up. So being persistent is really important as well. But yeah, girls can do everything and anything. And I've faced all sorts of biases, I'm telling you. I've faced gender biases. I've faced age discrimination as well, because there have been
Hmm.
younger people than me on my missions, for example, research missions and all that stuff. So I've faced that as well. Sometimes I felt out of the place because I was from a different background, right? And in being from an Indian background, that also makes a little bit of a difference. You don't understand some of the things that are in this culture here, and I have learned that also. I've learned to adapt. But you, at the end of the day, like I said, adapt. Adapting is a very important word here. So on the analog missions, I've had to adapt. When I go on the research missions, I've had to adapt. So you have to be flexible, you have to be open minded, plus you have to be focused, and that's what will help you in your journey. And the biggest thing, a positive attitude. No matter what, having that positive attitude always helps. That has helped me come all along this far. I'm asked who is my inspiration, who has inspired me. There has been no one person. I'm amazed when people say there is this person who was their mentor, there was that one person who was their inspiration. I think of it, and I've read people's stories, and that's how I've gotten to know. Like Rakesh Sharma ji, he was fighter pilot, so I got to know how to
Hmm.
become an astronaut. Then I read about Kalpana Chawla ma'am when she launched on Columbia. Then I came
Hmm.
here. I learned about Sunita Williams ma'am. So these are the astronauts. And then recently, Christina Koch, she was up there for a year, and Karen Nyberg. So I read about these astronauts, and that's how I kept educating myself about what else I can do, how I can do these things. I've met Sunita Williams, ma'am, also, and I'm telling you, she's so down to earth. I've met Raja Chari, astronaut Raja Chari. His father is from India, and his mom is from the US. So he was very down to earth as well. He's a test pilot in the US Air Force. He's one of our newest astronauts, and he's been selected to go to the moon as a part of that group of 20 astronauts who will be going to the moon in the Artemis missions. So all these astronauts I've felt are really, I've met, they're really down to earth, very humble. And that is one important trait as well. No matter what you achieve, no matter you're a man or a woman, being humble is being staying grounded is really important as well. So be positive, stay grounded, keep your focus. Don't let anyone tell you you cannot do it. You just believe in yourself and keep working towards your goals. Nothing can stop you from getting there.
That was so much inspiring, man. So uh, that brings us to the enlightenment round.
Mhm.
So, what inspires you to do everything you do?
My goal, my dream that has taken seed in my heart at this childhood age, that is itself my inspiration, my goal. Someone had said, and then I could relate to it. I never even thought about it. Arjuna had only one goal, right? That eye of that
Yeah.
fish, and somehow it has been that with me since the childhood. I have had this goal, and even though I was kind of I had to realign my focus. I was taken away from that goal several times. I keep gravitating back towards that goal. And so there is something inside within me that has always kept me going and focused on this goal. But when there have been times when I've been disappointed as well, right? Um, like when this astronaut application came out, we found out that by August, whoever's references have been contacted, they will make it to the next round. They are highly qualified and they will make it to the
Mhm.
next round of interviews. That didn't happen in my case. My references were not contacted, so I don't know what's going on. I don't think I have made it to the next round, but we will not know until the end of this year. And COVID has been stretching the selection process quite a bit. So we just recently got an
Mhm.
email from NASA that the selection process has been delayed, and we will let you know when we um, restart all the process. So there is no guarantee that I might make it to the next round, but I'm still going to continue. I'm still going to apply the next time. So that is what is important. That that passion towards this goal is what keeps me going. I,
Which one habit has
Mhm.
been game changer for you in your success journey?
Persistence, persistence. Because, like I said, there have been several times when I should have given up, and things were just not working out, but I've never given up, and that is what's been that is what has mattered, that is what has brought me this far. If I would have given up, I would have stayed a software engineer, and I would still be in California working in one of the software companies and just thinking, what if I would have done this, what if I would have taken this decision. So for example, there are two things I can think of. One is my student pilot journey. It has been full of hurdles. I've been going on since several years now. Earlier, my kids were little, and so I couldn't fly very often. I was about to reach the end of my private pilot journey. Just wanted to do the final flights, but that flight school where I was studying, it was sold overnight. I lost all my savings. The owner disappeared. He ran away out of the country. So I had to take a break of 2 to 3 years, then flight and find a new flight school, then find new instructors. I changed about 3 to 4 instructors because their schedules were not matching with mine. I had younger kids and I could fly only on the weekends. So then the airplane I soloed in 152, that was sold by the flight school I was at. So I had to start all over again in a new airplane, the 172, which is slightly larger. It has different systems. I soloed in that, and then I ended up coming here. So I had to take another break. I moved from California to Houston. We were in California for 20 years, and I wanted to come work here in the human spaceflight program, the astronaut program also, if possible, because all of that is here in Houston. But uprooting the family from there and bringing them here was also a challenge. And my kids, of
Mhm.
course, they had grown up there, right? So how could I just uh, bring ask them to come here? So that was a challenging phase also. And as a mom, I was guilty. I took a 2 year break. I convinced them, and they finally were willing. And today everyone is happy after the move. They are much in a much better place as well today after moving here. So if I had just kept thinking, oh, I want to go, I actually wanted to move long back to Houston so I could work here and improve my chances of being in the astronaut program. But because the kids were young, I had to let go of that. But now I convinced my kids, see, all these years I stayed here for you guys. Now it's your turn to do this for me. It's now or never
Mhm.
for me. If I don't do this now, I will never be able to do it. And so I convinced my husband and my boys, and we are here today. And that is what has made the difference. So I don't keep on thinking, what if I do this? Or I don't think of all the problems that will come in my way. I just make a decision and I try to make it best for everyone, try to bring the good out in that for everyone. And it works out. So basically, you have to be believing in yourself and you have to be persistent, right? It's a big change to move from there. All our friends were shocked as well. Oh, they're moving to Houston all of a sudden after all these years in California. So when a guy wants to move, when a man wants to move, a dad wants to move, it's very easy. There is no thinking also, right? Yes, let's just move. It's his job. But when a mom wants to move, when a woman wants to move, it's a little challenging. And I didn't want to force it on my family. I wanted to convince them and bring them around, and that's what happened eventually. They were all willing, and they all said yes, and that's how we are here. And they're all doing well today. Everyone's happy. So it worked out. So yes.
Ma'am, if you would do everything from start, what are the three things you would done differently?
I don't think I would do anything differently, because considering the circumstances or the situations that I was in when I was a little girl, there, what could I have done differently, other than being born in some other place? Being born in the US, I would be an astronaut if I was born in the US by now. Right? Because that's the environment
Yeah.
that you grow up in, and you can't change much about that. I don't think, when I think about it, I don't think there was anything that I could change about that environment. That was my destiny. I was born there. And I can't even say that I wish I would be better focused or I would do something differently. No, maybe even the fighter pilot program, I couldn't apply to that, and I don't know what I could do differently about that also. Those are the only things that come to my mind. Maybe I would apply to the Indian Air Force, but how could I had the myopia, so I wouldn't be eligible. And then I think I would end up being in the Air Force, and there was no human spaceflight program in India, was there? It is just there
No.
now. The astronaut program is just starting in India, so all my years would have been wasted. So whatever happened, look at it this way: it happened for the best. I'm here today, and I have a chance at becoming a NASA astronaut today. Even if it doesn't happen, I'm still working in the human spaceflight program, right? So even that is big. So nothing. I'm sorry to say, but I don't think I would change anything. Maybe I would just come here and work in the human spaceflight program sooner. But then again, my kids were my priority at that time. And for them, we had a very good life in California when they were younger. So, yeah, would change nothing.
Ma'am, according to you, in schools, what lesson should be taught instead of just making the students mug up the syllabus, and
Mm-hmm.
how can we, yeah.
Yeah, I think more hands-on work will really help. Uh, like yeah, we have labs and we have practicals, all that, right? So more hands-on work, more hands-on projects will really help. And I think that is happening in India slowly in schools, I believe. And then more inputs from the industry. Like here, NASA has programs for younger kids. They have programs for kids of all ages, actually. In colleges and universities, after high school, you can apply to NASA internships here. So something like that should be started in India, where during high school, kids are exposed to internship opportunities in the industry, any industry, software, um, hardware, whatever industry. Even ISRO should start something like that. And I think I've seen recently, I've been saying this since several years, even in India when I came for interviews, I've said this, that ISRO should start a public outreach program, educational program. And I have started seeing recently that ISRO is actually doing that, similar to what NASA does. They are starting contests and competitions. So these kind of opportunities are really important for students at that young age. And in schools, in middle schools, we should do more hands-on activities, building things, building robots, um, even in science and math classes. Hands-on activities really help.
Ma'am, before I ask you the last question, can you tell us how people listening to this podcast can get connected with you?
So I am on social media. I have a public page that I've created for just this purpose, where they can send me questions and I'll reply to them as and when possible. I am on Instagram as well. So yeah, you can just reach me through social media, through my public page, through my Instagram account. I don't have a Twitter account. I've been lazy. It's too much to manage and handle. So I've tried to keep it to these two. And then I'm on LinkedIn as well, but I have a lot of LinkedIn requests as well that I haven't gotten to. So,
Hmm.
but if you send me questions on my public page, I will definitely get back to you as and when possible. So yes, you can connect with me through there.
Okay, so here goes the last question.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine you are standing in front of millions of people on a stadium.
Mm-hmm.
That is the biggest stadium ever built in history of time. And
Okay.
every seat from that stage is occupied and eagerly waiting to listen from you.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have to share the most important lesson you have learned in your life, and you have got 1 minute of your time. What would be your message?
Good question. Let me think about it for a minute. um, what would be my message? My message coming from a small town, right, has always been this, because we hesitate to dream big, right? And like your first question
Yeah.
said, that in our society, the kind of environment we grow up in, we're not encouraged to dream big. So, what I would say is, in front of the million people, what I would say is, as humanity, we've come this far, and from my personal experience, we've always dared to dream big as humanity as well, because I've, as a person, I have dreamed big as well, and I've worked hard and I've been persistent and I've kept a positive attitude and a focus to get this far. And I believe,
Mhm.
as humanity, we can go beyond our solar system and explore this universe. There is so much more out there. We treasure our planet, we value our planet, we take good care of it, but let's go. Let's stop fighting all these wars that we are fighting. Let's stop looking at the boundaries between our countries, and let's go beyond that. Let's get a perspective of our planet from up there, and let's make humanity a space-faring species. Because I believe right now all our resources, all our financial resources are diverted into things like weapons and wars, right? If we divert them from that to the betterment of humanity here on earth and then in space, we will become a much better species. We will be really an intelligent species then. So yes, let's do that. Let's come together to make this planet a better place, and to take humanity beyond this planet and make it a spacefaring species. I think that is something I would really like to see in my lifetime. um, Make, go to moon, then to Mars, then to beyond Mars on Europa, and keep traveling further beyond our solar system as humans. So we have so many things to do. We want to develop newer propulsion technology so we can travel faster, or at least close to the speed of light, so we can reach at least the nearest stars that are closer to us. We are finding habitable zone planets. Wouldn't we want to travel to them one day? So why not focus on these kind of things? From every space mission, from everything that we do here at NASA in space research, there is a technology that comes out that is beneficial to us here on Earth. All these technologies we use in our kitchen today, the microwave, the ones that we use in our hospitals, x-rays, the GPS systems, these have come from space research, NASA's research. There are several such technologies. So space research is important to us. It helps us here on Earth, and it will help us take us beyond our solar system and make us a spacefaring species. I don't know if that was longer than a minute, but that would be my message to everyone. I would want to convince everyone to stop squabbling, to stop quarreling, and to forget the differences and to come together as one species and focus on the betterment of our species.
Yeah, this message was so much inspiring, and this conversation was excellent.
Thank you so much, Shiva. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, ma'am, for being on this show.
Thank you. And namaste to everyone who's listening. You all have a wonderful 2021. And you have a great day, Shiva.
Thank you, ma'am.